morning, fellow bakers, and welcome to the Gringo Baker channel. Today we're going to make a passion fruit pie. So we start with a cup of white sugar, and then this is a cup of milk and a half cup of heavy cream. And we're going to stir that up with a whisk so the sugar doesn't get all clumped in there. Then it's a quarter cup of cornstarch. A quarter teaspoon of salt, and 14 ounces of passion fruit pulp. This is frozen stuff, and I thaw it out in the refrigerator for a day or two. I made the mistake of tasting this once with no sugar in it. It's some strong stuff. And that's it before we move to the stove. Like all of these fillings, we want to stir pretty much constantly because you don't want it to burn, and it will burn. This is a very good smelling pie filling. I really like the aroma from this. You can find easier recipes for passion fruit pie. There's one that uses sweetened condensed milk, and I have used that, but it doesn't make as much filling. So even with the graham cracker crust, it didn't fill it up enough. So you end up with a very thin pie, like about half-inch thick maybe, not much more than that. But with this you get a good slice of pie. It's starting to steam, so it should thicken up pretty quickly now. And like I said before, we only want this to start getting thick at this point. Then we add it to the egg yolks, and we do that very slowly. I sometimes forget to mention it's starting to thicken up now. I sometimes forget to mention that we do it slowly, and the reason we add the mix to the egg yolks slowly while we stir them is so that they don't cook. You don't really want chunks of cooked egg in your pie. Okay, this is thick enough at this point. So now we're going to, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. We're going to slowly add it to the eggs. And stir constantly while we do that. Our goal here is to raise the temperature of the eggs up without cooking the eggs. And I do it in a cookie sheet because I made the mistake about 4 pies ago of just pouring it in with the cup on the counter and the pan overhanging the stove. And it took about 2 hours to clean the top of the stove off after that. Which doesn't help, that was the same pie that I dropped my cell phone on a hot burner and melted part of the case to the burner. So that, between the two things, made a mess and took forever to clean. Alright, now that we have that, what we do is we add this back to the original mix, and we try not to splash it on the stove like I just did. Again, do this kind of slowly, and it probably isn't as necessary, but do it slowly just because it works better and gives you a lot of chance to stir it. Now we go back on the burner. And we stir and pay attention to the stirring this time. We want it to thicken up, and we want it to boil for about a minute. And then after that, we add the vanilla and we set this aside and get the crust ready. The crust we use is a graham cracker crust. You can make your own, or you can buy one at the store. It actually costs a lot less to buy one at the store than it does to make your own. I just kind of go around and around because I get all the sides within a couple of seconds, and every time I go around I'm getting the middle. So not much chance for things to burn before you get back to them. This would be a good moment to say, if you like my videos, please subscribe. And it would be a real big favor if you shared them, because I like to think that a lot of people would like to see how to make these delicious pies. I appreciate you watching. I'm very thankful that you do that, and I hope that you're enjoying these videos as much as I'm enjoying making them. This is starting to get thicker now. one of those deals where you stir until you feel like your arm's going to fall off. I think we're getting close to boiling. Okay, we're boiling. We're going to try to boil it for a minute without burning it or having it pop up onto my hand and burn me. You can actually see now that it's getting thick. The whisk is leaving a trail. And that's a minute. Now, I can shut that off before I forget. This is a teaspoon of vanilla. And then we'll put the filling in the passion fruit pie. Okay. The filling has cooled a little bit. The crust has cooled a little bit. So we just put the crust in the pan, and you'll see this recipe makes a nice amount of filling, and is actually a little too much for the pie. For the crust. If you use a glass plate, then it probably will be just perfect. But I use these tin plates with the graham cracker that I bought. Then you don't have a choice. You use a little tin plate. But for most of my pies, I use these little aluminum plates because I give the pie away. I can't eat them all. When you have a hot pudding like this, while it's still hot, you want to put plastic wrap over it to keep it from getting a skin on it, because the skin is relatively unattractive and to the palate and doesn't necessarily need to be there. Were I making this pie for me, I would at this point, after it cools, and it goes in the refrigerator for at least 4 hours, by the way. After it cools, I would either put meringue on it now, or after it cools I would use whipped cream. But neither one seems to be a very popular thing here. So I don't do it. And if they want to put whipped cream, that's their choice. Me, I'd put whipped cream. So that's the finished pie. All it has to do now is cool. So we're going to set that one aside. And we're going to start working on a lemon pie.